Hello, Facebook. My name is Evie Burke, and I work with entrepreneurs to help them take productivity to a new level. So this is my first Facebook Live, so bear with me a little bit. So what we're going to do first is talk about the blog topic, and from the blog topic from this week, which is how is your previous experience helping or hindering you? And then the second part is we'll talk about planning. So planning next year and next quarter, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So while people are getting their notifications and joining me here, I'm going to talk about the blog topic, and that came from an aha that I had in the car the other day. And I was thinking about planning next year, and it started making me think about how I used to do things when I was in corporate at my previous job, profession. And I knew that I had some rules from there, and there were most of them that I thought that I knew and I've worked through. But so some backstory here is I was an implementation specialist, and what that meant was, in a nutshell, I did computer programming, I did database work, and I did client support and customizations. And from my time in that job, one of the rules that I knew I had and that I continue to work with here and there, it really helps when you know about these rules. But one of them that I knew I had was overwhelm is normal. And if you're not overwhelmed, then you're not pulling your own weight and you're making other people do more work. You're making your coworkers do more work. And so I know for myself, sometimes I schedule myself to overwhelm, or I create overwhelm for myself. And when I see that happening, I can step back and say, okay, let's tweak some things and see what actually is happening here, because I'm the only one in my business. If I'm overwhelmed, it's not because I'm trying to keep the overwhelm from anybody else, right? It's just me. So let me stop here before I go into the second one. And if you're live on the video, I would love to see you say hi and just know that you're here so I can welcome you. And so the second rule that I only just realized that I had is real work is done just me and my computer. No one else is involved. Let me adjust this a little bit. There we go. No one else is involved. So if real work is when I'm sitting at my computer, I'm doing work, and I'm not corresponding with anyone else, that's real work. And for my previous job, that was super important because that was billable work. You were billing projects generally when you were doing that kind of work. The problem is that doesn't really work for the job that I have now, for the business that I have now. And I just realized that I had this rule. So whenever I do planning, I tend to put projects onto my list that are just me and the computer. And for some reason, I think those are super important, but they're not. For me, the things that are the most important are the things where I'm interacting with other people, where I'm sharing what I do, or when I can help somebody else. Those connections are the most important thing in my business. So it's really no wonder that I get frustrated sometimes with my email or even with Facebook, because I haven't been considering that real work. And it is real work. It is things that I'm doing to build my business. And I do need to schedule time for that. So I share this story as a way to share with you that it's super important to look at those things in your past. What are the things that used to be your rules, from the job that you previously had? What are those rules that you had, And how are they impacting you now? How is it impacting how you plan your day or how you plan your week, or even how you look at your business in general or the things that you do? And when you start knowing what those things are, you can start recognizing, oh, wait a minute, maybe my priorities should be a little bit different. So I see Mary has joined us, so thank you. I don't see anyone else saying hi yet, but that's okay. And if you, Mary, or anyone else who's joined us wants to share, if you can think of any rules or from your previous profession or previous job that still might be showing up for you, you can share those in the comments if you're feeling as brave to do that. So let me jump into planning for the new year or the new quarter. And let me say just a little bit why I word it like that. So at this time of year, we think about, okay, what do I want to accomplish in the next year? What do those things look like? And you do want to do that. However, I know sometimes it can be really overwhelming to think about the whole year. And some of it depends on where you are in your business. But if it's really overwhelming to think about planning out your whole year, just think about planning out the next quarter. And then just remember at the end of the quarter to plan out the next quarter. So Mary says one of the rules that she used to have, one thing she learned because she used to own a tax office is to keep two sets of, a rule she's kept is 2 sets of eyes have to look at everything. Yeah, that's good. It's good to have another set of eyes just to look at any other things. And so that's a rule that works for you. So that's good. That's a good one. So going back to planning, pick a time period that works for you. Just remember that once that time period is up, be sure to come back and plan for the next time period. So I'm going to go through some steps here and grab a piece of paper, jot down your answers as you go, and realize that it might be something that you want to come back to the video and watch later to do, where you can pause it and sit with your answers maybe a little bit more before you go on to the next part. So just know that and do this exercise with me anyway, because sometimes as you go through it, you'll go, oh yeah, and write something down quick, and then if you go through it again, you might get something else. So to start though, just take a breath. Just notice your breath, be silent with it. And sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to mentally say, breathe in, out, because it gives something for those voices in my head to do. You have them too. And when they have something to do, even if it's just saying in and out for a couple of times, then they're less likely to go a bunch of other places. So let's go ahead and do that. So just close your eyes. Breathe in and out. All right. It's just a way to get you a little centered. So the first part of this planning is think about what will the next year, what will the next quarter bring? And these are things that are coming up, things that maybe you've already started planning and they're already there. So write down those things that you already know. These are things coming up in the next year, the next quarter that I know are important and need to be done. Okay? So that's step 1. Step 2 of part 1 is, what do you want the next year or the next quarter to bring? What are your goals and your expectations for the next period of time that you're planning for? And then step 3 of part 1 is, what are you hoping the next year and quarter will bring? Year or quarter will bring. So this one is your place to dream and get excited. right? This is your place to share the thing where if you were talking to your best friend at the end of the year, the end of the quarter, and you were sharing with her all of the really cool and unexpected things that happened, what would you be saying? You know, you're talking to your best friend and you're like, you would not believe the fabulous year or the fabulous quarter I've had. Let me tell you about all the cool things that happened. It's so great. And just write down what are those things. All right? And that brings us to part 2. So the first step of part 2 is to review all your answers in part 1 and write down what are your top goals. What are your goals from there? And then part 2, or question 2 of part 2, is if you only were able to accomplish one thing this year or this quarter, what one thing would you find the most joy and most satisfaction in? So look through those items and look for those things that would bring you just, if you accomplish that in your business, man, that would just be so cool and so great. What is that thing? And then question 3 of part 2 is to break that goal down a little bit. Because a lot of times goals are bigger things, right? They're not just one little piece of something that we want to accomplish. So it might be, maybe if your goal is to make X amount of money next year, break it down. Don't get overwhelmed by it, by these questions I'm going to ask next, because you probably already know the answers to most of these questions. It just helps to think about them. So if your goal is to make X amount of money, some of the things you might want to think about is, what are the things I'm selling to make that money? Who am I selling them to? How am I meeting those people? How am I finding those people? Just things like that, like how are you selling those? And what are the connection points with those people to lead into purchasing? And you probably know most of these answers already. All right, so break down that goal just a little bit. And then step 4 of part 2 is, what support or guidance do you need to reach that goal? So what support, guidance, or training do you need to reach that goal? All right, and looking at the income goal again, maybe it's a much bigger number than what you've shared in the past or what you've reached in the past. So who do you need to help you reach that number? Is it some extra support or guidance? Like, what do you need to reach that? How do you do it? Do you need help achieving it? Like, what is that? And then that moves us into part 3. Who do you know that can offer that support, guidance, or training? Or who do you know that will know somebody that can offer that support, guidance, or training that you're looking for? All right, so the last step of part 2 was, what support, guidance, or training do you need to reach that goal? And then the first part of part 3 is, who do you know that can offer you that support, guidance, or training? Or who do you know that will know somebody else that can offer you that support, guidance, or training? Now, the last step is to contact that person and reach out to them and let them know, hey, I need XYZ, and I was wondering if you could help me out with that, or if you know somebody who could help me with that. Now, something else to keep in mind is, sometimes we forget that even though we have a solo business, we don't have to do things by ourselves, right? So there's other entrepreneurs out there who would love to help you, who want to support you and be your cheerleader. And you don't have to do these things by yourself, right? And there's many groups out there that can offer you that support, whether they're in-person networking groups or they're Facebook groups. So I have a Facebook group that will that can help you out with some of this stuff. So if you want just to share what you're doing, that's a great place to do it. If you're looking for a little accountability, it's a great place to receive it. If you are looking for a connection or something else that you need, post to the group. It's a great place to get some support. So that group is called Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs, and I'll share it in the comments below later. And I would love to have you join that group and answer one of the two questions. You can either answer these questions in the comments here on this video, or you can go over to the group and answer one of these two questions there, or for bonus points, you can answer it in both places. So if you're brave, you can answer both of them. If you just want to answer one of these questions, that's fine too. So the first question is, what is your goal that would make you feel the most joy and satisfaction? What was that goal? What did you identify that as? And again, share that here or in the private Facebook group. The second question is, who are you going to reach out to, or how can we support you? So what is the thing that you need, and how can we help you either get that thing, or how can we support you in reaching your goal? So I would love it if you answered both of the questions. If you're not comfortable doing that, that's fine too. Just answer one. And that's all I have for today. So does anybody have any questions, or is anyone feeling brave and wants to share what's going on for them right now, what they're planning? I'll keep it open just for a second to see if anybody wants to share. All right. I will be back here next week, probably Wednesday, at a time to be decided. And I will see you all then. Much love. Bye.